How's it going, guys? Cameron here with Canadian Gamer, coming at you with another video. Now today I'm going to share with you my final thoughts on the racing game Horizon Chase Turbo, sometimes referred to as Horizon Chase World Tour. And this was a game that was available for the Nintendo Switch, the PS4, Xbox One, and the modern consoles as well. Now this game is a polarizing game, at least for me. So we'll get into that in just a minute. So just a bit of background on this racing game. You know, the game was originally released as a mobile game on iOS and Android. And then it was ported to Microsoft Windows, Linux, and like I said, all the other consoles I mentioned. Even the PlayStation Vita. Now, Horizon Chase is a racing video game developed and published by the Brazilian Aquarius Game Studio. It was released on August 20th of 2015, like I said, for iOS and Android platforms. It is a 3D game inspired by 2D 16-bit titles. Its soundtrack has Nintendo Core influences. And like I mentioned, in 2019, an enhanced version, Horizon Chase Turbo, was released for Linux, Windows, PS4, Nintendo Switch, Xbox One, and PlayStation Vita, the latter via a Play Asia physical release, and one of the last such for the system. A sequel, Horizon Chase 2, launched for Apple Arcade on September 6th of 2022, with an impending release for consoles in 2023, so that's something we can talk about as well today. So with regards to the gameplay in Horizon Chase, the player has to complete races on tracks located all around the world. The player has to pick up fuel refills on the track in order to continue playing. The player also has to collect coins as currency to unlock new tracks. The player can also use nitro boosts to speed up their car. Like a standard race, the player starts every race at the back and needs to overtake opponents to win. Different weather effects and track types can affect handling and the difficulty of driving. In the Senna Forever DLC, which also adds a first-person view, players can race Formula One cars in a campaign inspired by Ayrton Senna's career in the sport, with some Grand Prix venues being adapted to the game. Now, this was all from Wikipedia, okay? I didn't write this myself, okay? Do you think I'm that good? Now, the game's soundtrack was composed by Barry Leach, who was contacted due to his work on Top Gear, a racing game released in 1992 for the Super Nintendo Entertainment System. The soundtrack of that game was popular among Brazilian fans, leading to a remix contest. The remixes were later released as part of the soundtrack, and a cover of the popular Las Vegas track from Top Gear was included as an Easter egg. All versions of Horizon Chase except the PlayStation Vita also has an Ayrton Senna DLC, with profits being donated to the Ayrton Senna Institute. So, with all that being said, what are my thoughts on this game? I'm very conflicted with this game. Very, very, very conflicted. So this title was something that I was aware of. I saw Metal Jesus Rocks and Radical Reggie talk about this game on their channels back in the day. Now you got to remember, I'm not a huge fan of purchasing digital games. I'm usually one for physical releases. I didn't have a PlayStation 4 back when this game came out. Fast forward to about a year ago, I picked up a PlayStation 4. Alpha Nerd Entertainment had been talking this game up, you know, singing its praises. And so I had been on the lookout for a physical copy of this game. And in fact, I think I came across a physical copy of this game at Walmart a while ago. I just didn't think to pick it up. And then the more Alpha Nerd talked about it, the more it kind of piqued my interest. And I went into my local retro gaming store a couple of months back, actually back in the summer. And lo and behold, wouldn't you know it, they actually had the special edition of Horizon Chase Turbo for the PlayStation 4. So I picked it up, I got into it, And honestly, there's a lot to be said about this game. I don't even know where to start. The graphics are really, really good. They are. I have a hard time imagining that this game looks as good as it does on iOS or on an Android smartphone. I don't even know how you'd be able to play this game using a smartphone because it scales so fast, and that's something else we're going to get to. It's a complaint of mine. The game, in my opinion, scrolls too fast. You might be wondering, how is that possible? Yes, it is possible. And I don't want to go off on a tangent here or a rant, but let's just get it out of the way. The main problem with this game, it's not the graphics. The graphics are amazing. In some cases, the graphics are, I wouldn't say jaw-dropping, but they're breathtaking. There's some really nice scenery, some really nice weather effects, some great day and night cycles. The cars handle okay for the most part. It's very arcadey, not much skill involved. The music's great. I wish there were more tracks, but for what it is, yes, the music is really good. And if you download the Ayrton Senna DLC, you're getting more music as well. Where the game faults is the gameplay. It's very shallow. This game is trying to be Outrun, and I want to say maybe Top Gear, and a little bit of Lotus 2 Rex at the same time. But it's not as good as any of those games, okay? The gameplay is so shallow in this game. You know, for someone who has been speedrunning Outrun over the course of the last year, I've become intimately involved with that game to the point where, you know, a casual player of Outrun, they may not think anything of it, but once you really start to understand the ins and outs of that game, and I don't mean to go on an Outrun tangent, you soon realize it's not just an arcade racer. There's actually a lot of little nuances involved, and there's skill involved as well. If you want to get good at Outrun, you have to understand the core fundamentals of that game. It's a very deep game, believe it or not. You wouldn't think it by looking at it at a quick glance, but yes, it's a very deep game. It's the complete opposite with Horizon Chase Turbo, okay? You just pick up the controller and you can just rip around the track. No skill involved, hardly at all whatsoever, other than being able to maneuver around other vehicles. You're going to roll your car all the time. It's unavoidable. Some of the tracks, especially in Japan, which has like the most beautiful tracks in the game, unfortunately, the roads are too narrow and there's not enough room to move, and you're constantly banging into other objects and other cars on the track. I find there's too many cars on the track. I wish there were fewer cars, opponents, if you will. And it's a lot of times too, like you'll race like a 3-lap or a 5-lap race, and the tracks are so short. You could easily race around the track 3 times in less than 3 minutes, and then you're kicked back to the menu, and you're dealt with this brutal loading screen. I don't know why this game loads so much on a PlayStation 4 Pro. It blows my mind. But yeah, I wish, you know, the developers would have, instead of creating races where it's like 3 laps or 5 laps, if they would have just done one long track for each race, would have been better. Just my opinion. But is it all negative? No, I don't mean to sound like a negative Nancy. There is definitely some fun to be had. It's just the game's not to be taken too seriously, right? At the end of the day, I guess you would consider this a mobile game. Again, I believe this was heavily enhanced for the consoles, but man, like I said, it runs a tad too fast. Unfortunately, that's just my opinion. Now, interestingly enough, shortly after I purchased this game, Metal Jesus Rocks and Radical Reggie were talking about another game that came out on consoles called Slipstream, and I'll show you just a little bit of that here. Don't mind the CRT filter that I've got on. I actually prefer Slipstream over Horizon Chase Turbo. I find Slipstream runs at a proper speed. It's not too fast, and I love the drifting mechanics, and I like the visual aesthetics actually of Slipstream as well, more than Horizon Chase Turbo. Now, Slipstream was actually developed by one man, and it took him several years to develop it, so it's really a labor of love. But all that being said, Horizon Chase Turbo, you know, the base vanilla game, pretty good. The Summer Vibes DLC, not much really going on with that. You're getting, obviously, a car that's inspired by Outrunner. You're getting the convertible, I want to say, a Ferrari. So it's worth it. You know, if you can get the downloadable content, the Summer Vibes, for a couple of bucks, I would definitely recommend picking it up. However, the meat and potatoes of this game has to be the Ayrton Senna DLC. It is heads and shoulders above the vanilla base game. Again, you're getting a bunch of history and lore on Ayrton Senna. The developers really went all out with this DLC, okay? This is not a cash grab. They did a really good job. You know, there's some historical timelines and references and some information you can read as you go through the DLC on Ayrton Senna's career. And even when you're on the Brazilian track, you can actually hear the crowd chanting the Ole 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 song. And man, it just sends shivers right down your spine. So yeah, the Ayrton Senna DLC, you can play it in first person view or third person. It is so much better than the base vanilla game. I am telling you. I keep telling Alphaner to download the Ayrton Senna DLC. He hasn't done it yet. But man, if you're watching this, do yourself a favor and go download that Ayrton Senna DLC. Absolutely amazing. Another gripe I want to talk about too is when you're playing the vanilla game, it is pretty long. There's a lot of content to be had. And when you're racing each track, you can get either disqualified if you don't come in the top 4, or you can come in 4th place, or you can come in 3rd. Obviously, you get a bronze. 2nd place, you get a silver medal trophy. And then 1st place, you get a gold. And you can also get like a super gold, where it's like the trophy's kind of like goldish green, if you will. And that's the best trophy you can get. The reason why I bring this up is because I had no problem playing this game right till the end. Okay, I got all the way to Hawaii, and then at the end of Hawaii, you've got the final track that allows you to complete the game. You can't play the final track unless you have 11,000 points. I had probably a little under 10,000. So guess what that meant? A couple of hours of going back and grinding away at a bunch of races where I had completed them, but I only had like a bronze or a silver. I had to go back and get gold. Looking back on it, not necessarily a bad thing, because I was able to sort of get my money's worth and play a little bit more of the game and get better at these other tracks. And then I was able to go back and play the final track in Hawaii, and beat the game. Now, as far as I just want to mention it again with graphics. As far as graphics are concerned, I found, me personally, now Alpha Nerd, if you're watching this, maybe you can chime in, but I found Iceland, China, Japan, and especially Hawaii were the best looking areas in the game as far as aesthetics and graphics were concerned. And I really wanted to showcase the various tracks in the game in this video, because honestly, if you watch other reviews of this game online, I really get the impression that most people didn't see this game all the way through. And anytime you watch any impressions or any reviews on this game, it's always showcasing like the first couple of stages in World 1. So I don't really buy the notion that others have really played this game all the way through. I did! And that's why I wanted to put this video out, because I know there's a lot of you guys out there that are really curious about this game. And I really wanted to give you my honest opinion on it. They incorporated a few things from Top Gear. Like I said, there's little voice bubbles as you're driving along. It's pretty cool. I hate the fact that you have to refuel your car. I fucking hate that so much. Like I said earlier, the game moves at a breakneck speed. And a lot of times you can't see what's coming up in the distance. And it's very easy to blow by the jerry cans on the road, and the next thing you know, you run out of fuel, and you have to go back and run the track all over again. So a bit frustrating, to say the least. So my biggest gripes would have to be having to pick up gas all the time, fuel. I really find that to be an obnoxious gameplay mechanic. the excessive loading times in the game for this being a mobile game on PS4 Pro, there's no excuses. This game shouldn't load like it does. It really infuriates me. Repetitive music. Again, the music's really good, but there's just not enough track selection. And the grinding, having to go back after getting all the way to the end of the game and having to grind. Really, really, really frustrating. There's a lot of other cars to unlock that I have not unlocked. I really don't know if I will or not. I've put enough time into this game. I feel like I'm okay to sort of put it aside. Will I pick up the sequel when it comes out this year? Yeah, I definitely will. Absolutely. Now, you know, I don't think this game got a lot of coverage when it came out, to be honest with you. I didn't see anybody like IGN covering it. Maybe it's because it is a mobile game and it's frowned upon. But just because it's a mobile game, it doesn't mean you have to discredit it. Like I said, there is a lot of fun to be had. If you can pick this game up on the cheap, I highly recommend it. Again, not very deep gameplay mechanics. I would not put this game above the original Top Gear or Top Gear 2 or Lotus 2 Rex or Outrun or the majority of those 16-bit superscalers. But for what this is, it is pretty good. And again, bit of a side note, if you do get a chance, check out Slipstream as well. You absolutely will not regret it. And even if you're not a fan of Formula 1 racing, the Ayrton Senna DLC is so amazing in this game. The only thing that's frustrating about it is it's not baked in on the disc. I had to purchase it separate from the vanilla game. And you know, there was a lot of DLC that came out for this game on Android iOS that we did not get on console. And I think they're taking all those extra DLC bits and pieces, if you will, breadcrumbs, and they're going to probably be including that in Horizon Chase 2, which will be coming out in the near future. So I'm really looking forward to that. Really cool that the Brazilian dev team Aquarius paid homage to Ayrton Senna as well. I think that's just absolutely fantastic. So that's just my thoughts on this review for Horizon Chase World Tour. I apologize it took so long to get this review out. I told myself I wasn't going to review it until I finally finished the game. So there you have it, guys. I hope you enjoyed this one. Thanks so much for watching. Have a good night.